Let's say good morning to our co-host. She is Maria Lawrenson. Did you cut your left finger there, your knuckle?
No, it's a dermatology injury there.
Okay.
So
you're working on the heavy bag without the gloves on?
No, they come and find something and freeze dry it off. And this is what it looks like leprosy for a couple days. While I know, right?
Kearns is running the other way.
I know. Sorry about that. It's not contagious.
Health directors are careful people.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm good. I'm fine.
I'm glad you're healthy.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Let's say good morning to Bill Kearns, who knows a bit about health, public health at least.
Just a little bit. I thought maybe his battle scars from being in here at the station this morning. But, Maria, we're going to have to be on our game because this next segment has the boss.
That's right.
Yeah.
We might get fired.
We might.
Look at that big smile on Mike Hornby's face.
Good morning. It's just nice to hear Maria talking without being interrupted.
It
really is quite lovely.
Poor Bill Stubblefield. He's listening.
Admiral is feeling the love. I'm sorry.
Yes,
I'm sorry, Bill. I've been trying to defend you, but it's just not working.
Hang in there, Admiral.
Hang in there.
I'm going to double his salary.
You know what? Put another 0 on the front end and the back
right.
end.
Why not?
Yeah.
There you go.
When did you get back from Charleston?
Got back last night. Yeah. So we went down to Stonewall.
Right.
I
said Charleston. Sorry.
Started Friday evening. The speaker had a picnic down in Clay County, that for West Virginia Day. With a great turnout. It was a couple, about maybe 100 and something odd people turned out for that. A lot of legislators, a lot of elected officials. And then Saturday we had a charity golf tournament and raised $4,000 for the Mountaineer Food Bank.
We just had Chad Morrison on from the food bank yesterday.
We golfed in 100-degree weather. It was hot,
yeah.
but it was a lot of fun. And then Sunday we kicked off interims, and that was good. We had a presentation to the caucus on PEIA, and we had a very in-depth conversation on the school aid formula to kick off the meeting. So I thought I organized those two presentations for the caucus so that everybody understands the issues. We obviously hear rumors that the governor is going to be calling us into special session, so I wanted to make sure our members were informed. Trying to get through the school aid formula in 30 minutes was...
Educate us on the school aid formula.
I was going to say, and if you understand it, I've spent a very short time, 6 years in, and tried to understand it in that time, and it was just like,
Once you understand it, it really isn't as convoluted as we think.
Do you understand it?
I do. I have been working with Uriah Cummings from the Board of Education. He's
Great.
the finance guy for about a year now. I introduced legislation to open up the school aid formula, particularly Step 7, which is where these boards of education have trouble spending the money, and that's where people say that they have these huge balances, because in Step 7 they're very much guided as to what they can spend money on. So we're trying to open that up so that they can use that money to maybe spend it on special education, things like that. But it's a 10-step process, and each step, it starts with enrollment, and then each step is calculated as you go. We do not have enough time to go over it in detail today, but once you understand it.
But in general, the purpose of the school aid formula is to try to make sure schools are equally funded per pupil?
Generally, yes. And there are some procedures in there because we have some very small school districts. So we have, I think, 6 districts that are under 1,400 students. And that's the bottom cap is 1,400. So there's a formula in there to ensure, because obviously there is administrative costs, so you can't go below a certain amount.
Sure. So is the school aid formula meant to be an all-encompassing way of making sure that a school district is funded everything from the building being there to keeping the lights on to keeping the staff employed and paid and the students educated?
Yes, that's the goal of it. It starts with Step 1, which is professional educators, but that also includes all your administration and your administrators in there. Step 2 goes on to service personnel, and then Step 3 is, I think, transport. Step 4 is facilities, and you kind of keep going through the different steps, and at the end is how you get how much goes to education.
So is there's a baseline amount plus a per pupil amount, because obviously you got to have school buses and whatever.
It's a baseline amount for those small districts, but for everybody else, it's per pupil based on a formula in each of the different steps. And then you get to the end, which is the local share, and based on your local share is a percentage of how you get. It's also got 4 different steps in there for how dense your population.
What is local share?
Local share is the local taxes that the counties collect.
Does that include levies?
Tax. It does include the levy and the excess levy.
So if you have levies and excess levies, does it affect then what the redistributed amount is that goes around the state to each school?
Unfortunately, it does. If you have levies and you're collecting more taxes, the less you get from the state.
Which is where we got into the data center discussion previously.
And the data center piece of it is the new bill will not get any more money to the schools. It's more to the counties, and that was effectively why. And I think Jason explained. We could be in a situation in Berkeley County, and there are I think 4 counties in the state that are in this situation where their real estate taxes are so high they do not get any money from the state.
The amount that they take in is so high that you don't get a single dollar from the state.
Not $1 from the state.
You have to fund your own education.
You have to fund your own education, but at the same parameters based on the school aid formula. So you can't spend any more even if you have the money.
There's also a provision that allows for Berkeley County, for instance, to pay a little bit more than what the state baseline in pay is.
Yes.
How does that work and factor in?
So because of our, when we did that giant ominous education bill a few years ago, there is no restriction. The only restriction is you can't be a certain percentage above what the average is. So we could, and I think Berkeley County does, they give I think they call it a housing allowance bonus in Berkeley County to kind of get out of that, hey, we're paying our teachers more.
But does that housing allowance bonus, that gets excluded from any pension calculations, does it not?
I believe so. Yeah, so it doesn't count towards their pension.
Okay. So when Dale Lee has been on in the past, the president of the WVEA, he has said if you want locality pay, the easiest way to do that is to increase the local share. That would mean keeping more of the local property taxes you generate, but by doing so, would you then also be losing the state portion of the funding?
Exactly.
So how does that happen?
I mean,
how does it equal more salary?
He has because we're allowed to use our local share in whatever way we want. So, and that's on the excess, I believe, the excess, not the regular levy. So he has a good point. It just it would adversely affect too many other counties. So I don't think there's an appetite to go that direction. We don't know what the governor's going to be proposing for school aid formula. We are working with Department of Education. I've been working with Uriah we've had 15 to 20 meetings at least. Him and I in contact a lot because I do realize that we need to change it. I think it's open up step 7 is the key to doing it. I don't think there's a simpler way to do the funding.
And the funding formula can be changed by lawmakers?
Yes, we can change certain steps of the formula, but it is in code that we have to provide a free and fair education. It has to be equal across the state.
So I don't know if this is the school aid formula, but you said something that just has sort of stayed with me. So we have systems that have 1,400 students in it compared to Berkeley County
20,000 students.
That has 20,000. So, but that 1,400 school district is run by a superintendent. So we have 55 school superintendents,
we sure do,
regardless of the size. I mean, it does make you understand when you have deputies, and certainly we've had Dr. Sachs in here a lot of times. But is there a prohibition to say, Wyoming County and whatever else is down there next to them, that they combine and provide one?
So that was a very sticky subject this past session.
Okay.
The State Board of Education is currently running 7 school systems because they have either not held up their standards. There's been issues with financial stealing, fraud, if you will. They came to the State Board of Education, came to us and said, we would like to, there's a certain situation where there's 3 school districts that they are running that are all together. They would like to consolidate those 3 as a pilot program. Well, when you talk pilot programs, that means, hey, we're looking at this, and now everybody starts going, well, hang on. Berkeley County doesn't want to get merged with anybody. We're obviously way too big to be merged with somebody else. So it becomes very, very difficult to have those conversations. We also have schools in the state that have K through 12, one school, 25 kids from kindergarten all the way up to high school, with 100-mile radius of where these kids are coming from. So with those types of situations, you have to really look at it and go, okay, is it...
It's fair and equitable, but does it make sense to transport kids that...
And what are you going to do? You're going to not provide an education for these kids? Are we going to send them on a school bus for 2.5 hours instead? There are many variables that we need to look at, and it is just so diverse and so different across the state. We have probably 7 different categories of geography in the state and in situations. So it's got to be looked at. It's not a meeting. It's not one meeting that's going to fix this. It's not one bill that's going to fix this. It's something we need to look at as a whole. And the state BOE is taking over more and more school districts across the state. And that means those elected officials down there don't have any say.
So, Mike, I know your stance on this. We're going to take a little bit of a different swing here. From interims, was there some discussions on vaccine rules?
There was no discussions on vaccines during interims. I think this was probably the best working interim I've been involved with. It was very interesting. We were at Stonewall. We got to visit the Aurora Flight Sciences Center. They're building parts for airplanes for the entire country, and it was groundbreaking stuff that they're doing right here in West Virginia. They're taking raw carbon fiber and actually making nose cones for our drones. We got to visit the FBI facility in Clarksburg. 4,000 employees. 10% of the FBI is based in West Virginia. All of the data centers for the FBI is in West Virginia, underneath their parking lot. They process all the fingerprints. They process all the gun licenses. It's all done right here in West Virginia.
Senator Byrd at his best.
Senator Byrd has an impression in every part of the state. It's quite impressive. It really is. But no, there was no discussion. I did attend a health meeting. They didn't discuss anything on vaccines. It was
certainly. I know your stance on vaccine laws, and at the last legislative session, it failed to become law, but still standing on the emergency ruling that Governor Morrissey
the executive order he put in place, and now the state Board of Education, those members decided they're going to follow whatever
the existing previous vaccine rules.
And now there's a lawsuit
with a mother that's filing because she cannot practice her
religious freedom.
I think it was worded deep religious freedom.
And that was the bill we passed in 2023, the Religious Freedom Act. So that's the bill that the governor is referring to, that, hey, this covers everything, and that's what he's referring to. I think he's got a valid point in his argument. You understand where I personally come from.
Absolutely.
But we're going to see this play out in the courts. So I think at the same time, the Board of Education will be suing for my bill for the rulemaking review on education too. So with those two kind of coinciding and the Board of Education taking that stance, it makes my case even better for us being involved in the rulemaking.
And the governor, I guess, going on record of saying he wants to see Board of Education members' terms limited, that he wants to see many things.
No, that is a
changed.
That is a conversation that was had amongst members where they think that there will be a bill that might change the Board of Education.
Are you seeing that coming up this coming year?
I think so. I don't know where it goes, but I do think there will be legislation placed by somebody.
And those members on the state board are appointed?
Appointed for a 9-year term, I believe.
9 years?
Yes.
Okay. Because, and I've had this conversation before, one of the things for gubernatorial appointments, a lot of times it might be even longer than that because you have to wait until your replacement is named. So
we have 2 governors, ex-governors, wives on that board too.
So there you go.
Well, is the goal to ultimately make the State Board of Education an elected board?
That's on the House side. I cannot speak for the Senate at all, but I know there are a lot of people talking about making it an elected official based regionally. And representing the same amount of people.
I think the governors would like to see that as well. He's been quoted many times of saying it's an unelected, bureaucratic, all the things that everybody claims when you have unelected board members. I know that's been a issue with the Board of Health in years. For my whole tenure, pretty much people saying, the Board of Health is appointed by the county commissions. But they're not elected.
And I think
making decisions.
I think that is accountability is everything, right?
Yes.
So you don't have any accountability if you're not elected, or there's no consequences. Nobody can hold the State Board of Education
accountable
members accountable because they can do what they want. They just went against the governor, which, I mean, whether you agree with the governor's executive order or not, he's still the governor, and he has that power to make an executive order. So
right or wrong,
and if the State Board of Education thinks they're the 4th branch of government, I think it's going to be a real big problem for legislators. I think that they will move accordingly.
PEIA, you said that was addressed. What was the most common sense suggestion there?
So it wasn't. We've hired a third-party company to give us a report. That report was just given to us. It won't be finalized for another 3 weeks. There are numerous suggestions in there, whether it's they think, and I don't want to speak for, but from what I got, there are some savings that we could be made if we only gave PEIA to teachers and state employees, and those are the only people that were on PEIA, as opposed to a whole bunch of different nonprofits and things like that are on there, which they've identified as being the higher costs to the state. So there could be some solutions in there. I am not on health, and I'd let those folks take care of that, and finance. I know the governor's team has reached out and is putting a task force together. Senators, House members, governor's staff, this third-party company. I've been fortunate enough to be asked to be a part of that, and we'll be meeting here soon.
Can legislators opt to take PEIA insurance?
Yeah.
And how many do? Do you have any idea?
I don't know.
You have to pay the full premium. That's the downside.
Yeah, we don't get the 80. We don't get the. I signed up for PEIA my first month when I was down there, and my paycheck was negative $800 and something. So I promptly jumped off it because it is a Cadillac plan when you pay for it 100%. Mm-hmm. It really is. It's a great plan.
So when you're speaking of potential savings, when you're looking at, I think they classify as non-state agencies. The health department is a non-state agency. Mm-hmm. We participate in PEIA because our staff are state civil service employees. Yes. But yet we pay the premium to the state PEIA, and it is expensive. Mm-hmm. But why would they look at wanting to remove the non-state agencies if they're already paying the premiums?
So it's not technically the people that are paying the premium.
We're not Board of Education and we're not state agency. So
those are the questions that people are having across, and has been no decision actually made. But the company is going to have, and this will be available to the public too once it comes out, so that people can actually see it.
The retirees that are on PEIA instead of Medicare, Jonathan Bodwell, many times in this show has said the state could save a lot of money by having those people go on Medicare, they could save a lot of money by paying less and getting better medical care. Is any truth to that?
So, obviously, since Jonathan had said that on here, there are people looking into that. The pushback is, well, no, the retirees themselves don't believe that fact. They want to be shown it on paper first before we would actually make
But the
that
state
decision.
is looking into that as an option to save money?
We have legislators and state people, and as well as the private company looking into that. That has been brought to the
Is
attention.
there still a discussion about completely getting out of the insurance business?
There are people that are very interested in getting out of the insurance business, but again, without having something in front of you to say this is what we're doing, and I think the governor's office has really done a good job by reaching out to legislators, both on the House and Senate side. Say, okay, we need to come together on this, because the governor understands if he just calls us into special session and throws something at us, it is not going to go over very well.
And PEIA has been a point of contention for as long as I can remember.
Yeah, but at least
And it will be for years to come.
And at least we're actually working to finding that solution. I think that's very important.
All right, we've got a final minute coming up. The boss, Delegate Michael Hornby, House Caucus Chair, Vice Chair of what?
Vice Chair of School
Choice,
Choice, and
yeah,
now new Chair of International Trade.
Direct pipeline to Ireland. Back with a final minute right after this. Thank our producer on the show today, the sports doctor Colin McLaughlin. My co-hosts, Mr. Bill Kearns, pitching in for Mr. Bill Stubblefield.
Wow, I got my name mentioned first,
You
Maria.
did. You
Wow.
did.
I am honored.
On the intros, Maria first. On the exits, Maria last.
Last word.
Yeah, also Maria Lawrenson, thank you.
You are quite welcome. Always happy to be here.
And to the man who owns the chairs, the desks, the mics, and the stands, the boss, Michael Hornby.
Thanks for having me. Big shout out to Scott Heckert. He had a stint put in yesterday at the end of the interim, so hopefully he's doing well.
And to the Admiral listening and hanging out, recuperating. Hopefully we'll see you Friday. Bill?